For over a century, we've been told the wrong story. The Wizard of Oz painted Glinda as the hero and the Wicked Witch as the villain. But what if everything we knew was a lie? What if the real Queen of Oz wasn't the one in the sparkly crown, but the one they tried to erase from history? Today, we're uncovering the truth behind the green skin, the flying monkeys, and the most misunderstood woman in literary history. Before we dive into this revelation, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us, did you ever question who the real hero of Oz was? Your engagement keeps these secrets coming. Now, let's step into Emerald City and discover what Wicked finally reveals. The story doesn't begin with a witch. It begins with a girl named Elphaba Thropp, born under a scandal that would define her entire existence. Her mother, Milena, had an affair with a mysterious traveling salesman who carried a green elixir. When Elphaba emerged into the world with emerald skin and razor-sharp teeth, the midwife screamed. Her father, the governor of Munchkinland, couldn't even look at her. "She's cursed," he whispered, turning his back on his own daughter. But Elphaba wasn't cursed. She was extraordinary. While other children played with toys, she was reading philosophy. While they gossiped about crushes, she was questioning the power structures of Oz. Her intelligence terrified people more than her appearance ever could. At Shiz University, everything changed. That's where she met her Glinda Upland, a bubbly, privileged blonde who seemed to be everything Elphaba wasn't. Their first encounter was a disaster. Glinda took one look at Elphaba's green skin and black-pointed hat and decided she wanted nothing to do with her. "I specifically requested a private room," Glinda complained to Madame Morrible, flipping her golden hair with practiced precision. Elphaba said nothing. She was used to rejection. What she wasn't used to was what came next. During their first weeks as roommates, something unexpected happened. Beneath Glinda's superficial exterior, Elphaba discovered a genuine soul searching for meaning. And beneath Elphaba's defensive walls, Glinda found the most loyal, brilliant friend she'd ever known. Their bond defied every social rule in Oz. An outcast and a princess, united by something deeper than anyone could understand. But their friendship would be tested in ways neither could imagine. One night, Madame Morrible, the headmistress and secret advisor to the wizard, pulled Elphaba aside. Her eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity. "You have a gift, Miss Elphaba, a power unlike anything I've seen in decades. The wizard himself would like to meet you." Elphaba's heart raced. The Wizard of Oz, the most powerful figure in our world, wanted to meet her? The girl everyone called a freak? This was her chance to finally be seen, to finally matter, and maybe even do some good in a world that had only shown her cruelty. Glinda squeezed her hand. "This is your moment, Elfie. You're going to change everything." Neither of them knew how right she was. But as Elphaba prepared to journey to the Emerald City, dark forces were already conspiring against her. The wizard wasn't looking for a protégé. He was looking for a scapegoat. And Elphaba, with her green skin and rebellious spirit, was perfect for the role he had planned. What would the wizard ask of her? And what would Elphaba discover about the man behind the curtain? The Emerald City blazed with artificial splendor, every surface polished to reflect the illusion of grandeur. Elphaba walked through the palace halls with Glinda by her side, her heart pounding with hope and terror in equal measure. This was it, her chance to prove she wasn't a monster, but a force for good. The wizard's chamber was smaller than she expected, and so was he. Behind the massive throne and smoke machines stood an ordinary man, balding, nervous, sweating through his expensive robes. He smiled at Elphaba, but his eyes betrayed something else: calculation.
"My dear girl," he said, his voice dripping with false warmth, "I've heard such extraordinary things about your abilities. I need someone with your unique talents." He gestured to an ancient spellbook, its pages yellowed and crackling. "There's a matter of some animals causing trouble. They're organizing, questioning authority, refusing to accept their place in society. I need you to help me control them." Elphaba's stomach dropped. Animals, the sentient, talking creatures who had built universities and held positions of respect throughout Oz, were being stripped of their rights. She'd heard rumors, dismissed them as gossip, but here was the wizard himself, admitting to a systematic campaign of oppression. "You want me to silence them?" Her voice was ice. "I want you to help maintain order," he corrected, still smiling. That's when Elphaba saw it. Behind the curtain, cages lined the walls. Inside them, animals cowered, professors, doctors, artists, reduced to trembling prisoners. One of them, Dr. Dillamont, her favorite teacher from Shiz, looked at her with pleading eyes. "Elphaba," he whispered, "please." Everything crystallized in that moment. The wizard wasn't a hero. He was a fraud, a tyrant, a man who maintained power through fear and propaganda. And he wanted her to be his weapon. "No," Elphaba said firmly. The wizard's smile vanished. "I'm sorry?" "I said no! I won't help you torture innocent beings!" Madame Morrible stepped from the shadows, her face twisted with rage. "You ungrateful little wretch! Do you know what we're offering you? Acceptance, power, a place in society?" "I don't want a place in this society," Elphaba shot back. She grabbed the spellbook and began freeing the animals, her magic crackling green and wild. Alarms blared, guards rushed in, and in the chaos, Elphaba made a choice that would define the rest of her life. She cast a levitation spell on herself, grabbed a broom from a terrified servant, and crashed through the palace window into the sky. Glinda screamed her name, reaching out, but Elphaba was already gone, flying over the Emerald City as guards shot arrows and citizens pointed in horror. "The witch!" someone shrieked. "The wicked witch!" Back in the palace, the wizard turned to Madame Morrible with cold calculation. "We have our villain. Spread the word. Elphaba Thropp is an enemy of Oz. Anyone who helps her is a traitor." Glinda stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. In one moment, her best friend had become the most wanted criminal in their world, and she had to choose: stand with Elphaba and lose everything, or stay silent and live with the guilt forever. "What should I do?" she whispered to Morrible. The headmistress placed a cold hand on her shoulder. "You should change your name, dear. Glinda sounds so common. How about Glinda? It's more fitting for Oz's new good witch." Glinda. The name felt like a betrayal on her tongue, but she nodded. Because in that moment, she didn't have Elphaba's courage. She chose safety. She chose lies. And Elphaba, flying alone through the darkening sky, realized she'd lost everything: her dream, her reputation, and the one person who truly understood her. But she'd gained something too: the truth, and she'd spend the rest of her life fighting for it, no matter the cost.
Months turned into years. The Green Witch became a ghost story, a cautionary tale mothers told their children. Be good, or the Wicked Witch will get you. Wanted posters plastered every town square, offering rewards for her capture. The propaganda machine worked perfectly. Elphaba was no longer a person. She was a monster. But monsters are made, not born. Elphaba established a hidden sanctuary in the western wilderness, sheltering escaped animals and others persecuted by the wizard's regime.
She became a revolutionary by necessity, a terrorist by propaganda, a hero to the voiceless. Her flying monkeys weren't evil minions. They were rescued winged monkeys who'd been experimented on in the wizard's laboratories, their wings painfully grafted on by black magic. They followed Elphaba not out of fear, but out of gratitude. "You gave us back our freedom," their leader told her. "We'll follow you anywhere." Yet every victory came with unbearable loss. Every animal she saved meant 10 more were captured. Every act of resistance was twisted by Glinda's increasingly elaborate PR campaigns into evidence of wickedness. And the worst part? Elphaba watched from afar as Glinda transformed into everything they once mocked. A shallow celebrity, a pretty face for an ugly regime. But Glinda was drowning in guilt. In the glittering parties and public appearances, she saw Elphaba's face in every mirror. At night, she clutched the spellbook they'd once studied together, whispering apologies to empty air. She used her position to quietly undermine the wizard where she could, delaying orders, forgetting to sign decrees, redirecting resources to protect animals when no one was looking. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Their worlds collided again when a young girl named Dorothy Gale arrived from Kansas, setting off a chain reaction that would finally expose the truth. Dorothy, innocent and confused, was immediately weaponized by the wizard as his newest pawn. "Kill the wicked witch," he commanded, "and you can go home." Elphaba watched this terrified child being manipulated just as she had been, history repeating itself, and she made a decision. She would let herself be the villain one final time, if it meant Dorothy could be free. The confrontation at her castle was pure theater. Elphaba threatened, Dorothy panicked, water splashed, and as Elphaba felt herself melting away, a staged death using her own magic, she locked eyes with Glinda, who'd arrived too late, as always. In those final moments, Glinda understood. This was Elphaba's final act of rebellion, to die on her own terms, to release Dorothy from the wizard's grip, and to free her oldest friend from the guilt that had been suffocating her for years. "Glinda, be good. Be the good witch I know you can be. Fix what I couldn't," Elphaba whispered as she collapsed. The green woman melted into nothing but a pointed hat and a puddle of water. Dorothy trembled. The citizens cheered. And Glinda held that black hat in her shaking hands, feeling its weight. The weight of truth, of sacrifice, of a friendship that had survived everything except a world determined to destroy it. But was Elphaba really gone? Or was this simply the greatest trick the Wicked Witch ever pulled?
The truth is this. Elphaba didn't die. She faked her death brilliantly, using a heat-resistant spell and theatrical flair to create the illusion of melting. While Oz celebrated the death of the Wicked Witch, she escaped beyond the deadly desert with Fiyero, the man who'd lugged her despite everything, or perhaps because of everything, and started a new life free from the roles others had forced upon her. But her legacy lived on in ways she never anticipated. Glinda, now wielding real power after exposing the wizard as a fraud, spent the rest of her life quietly rewriting Oz's history. She couldn't bring back Elphaba's reputation. The propaganda had cut too deep. But she could ensure that animals regained their rights, that the oppressed found protection, that the systems Elphaba fought against were dismantled brick by brick. In private moments, Glinda would hold that black pointed hat and whisper, "I'm trying, Elfie. I'm trying." Years later, when scholars began questioning the official narrative, they discovered something extraordinary. The Wicked Witch had never actually hurt anyone. Every crime attributed to her was either fabricated or was actually her protecting the vulnerable from state violence. The flying monkeys were victims she rescued. The terrorized citizens she attacked were actually wizards' guards caught oppressing innocent people. Elphaba Thropp wasn't a villain. She was a freedom fighter, a whistleblower, a woman who saw injustice and refused to look away, even when it cost her everything. The real question Wicked forces us to ask isn't what makes someone wicked, it's who gets to decide. Power writes history. The victors name the villains, and sometimes the person we're taught to fear is actually the person brave enough to challenge the comfortable lies we're told. Oz didn't need a perfect queen and a sparkly crown. It needed someone willing to sacrifice their reputation, their safety, their very identity to protect those with no voice. Elphaba was never the Wicked Witch. She was the conscience of Oz. Inconvenient, uncompromising, and absolutely necessary. Glinda became the face of change, but Elphaba was its heart. And perhaps that's the most powerful truth Wicked reveals. The real queens of any society aren't the ones with titles and thrones. They're the ones who fight for justice when it's hardest, who stand with the marginalized when it's dangerous, who choose what's right over what's easy. Elphaba Thropp flew away from Oz, but she left behind something more permanent than any monument. A reminder that wickedness is often just righteousness that threatens the powerful, and that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is refuse to be what the world demands. The true Queen of Oz never wore a crown. She wore green skin and a pointed hat, and she changed everything.
If this story changed how you see heroes and villains, hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden truths from your favorite stories. And tell us in the comments, who's another villain you think might actually be the hero? Let's uncover the truth together. This is Secrets of the Crown, reminding you that the most dangerous magic is the spell that convinces us we already know the whole story.